If you're in need of healing your wounded inner child so that you can experience loving relationships, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 6 areas of focus that will help you reprogram your childhood conditioning and heal the wounds of your past. Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Harmony. I'm a twin flame expert helping twin flames around the globe bathe spheres, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Welcome to my weekly glow show. This week's hot topic is helping you heal the wounds of your inner child so that you can experience loving relationships. I will share with you how this came about. But before we go there, I just want to, identify the significance of this issue that everyone is experiencing right now. Just like a soap opera, the soap opera of, as the world turns, we have all experienced these relationships that create drama in our life. And it's programmed from our childhood conditioning, the connection of our relationship with our parents, and they parallel, and how we've been conditioned and taken on not only our personal life lessons of this lifetime as to why we chose our parents, but in that process, that conditioning of that family curses, the lineage has programmed us as twin flames, and everyone really, to be able to identify what is the conditionings, what is it that we are carrying out, and what cycles are we breaking from the generation of these relationships? Because as twin flames, we're redefining a new way to love in all areas of our life, not just with our twin flame. And so it's very important to realize that every relationship that you have or have had is a mirrored reflection of what you chose to learn from your parents and what you were conditioned to learn, or to your belief systems, or how you coped with your coping mechanisms of your programs of how you handled those situations that you programmed those throughout your childhood in this lifetime. And I've said this, but I'm going to say it again because it's so important. We've been identifying the wounds of our past from a past life block that we're releasing and that we're reprogramming. But, as we move forward, so many people where they're stuck now is being able to heal those conditions of the wounded child, connect that to their parents, heal with their parents. And this is needing to be done before they can go forward in relationships. And so I can't tell you how many people have contacted me in the last week at random, including just friends that have said, do you have some kind of a program that can help? Because I'm seeing repeated patterns of my childhood conditioning I thought I had this all cleaned up and it's coming back. And I'm just seeing this across the board, like over and over and over. So I want you to stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 6 areas of focus that can help you identify, heal, and reprogram these childhood wounds so that you can move past this block and experience loving relationships in all areas of your life. So to do that, if you're really ready to step out of that maze and discover these lessons, it takes some accountability. It takes some desire, first of all, to want to do it, and responsibility for your part in choosing these teachers to show up to be a reflection from all of these relationships. So, again, just stay tuned because I'm going to share with you some resources in the end of this that will also help you going forward. And also, if you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and also hit the notification button so that you will be notified of my videos as they come live. That way you can stay up to date with the information. So I want to start off sharing my own personal, just really highlight, this is very deep, how this connected and how I connect to this topic. So I've been personally working to heal the wounds with my parents consciously for at least 5 years. And in that process, it's been, as we go through loops and we go through cycles and we go through circles and we go through layers to get to the pit and to the heart of these wounds that we have and understand them. We can't eat an elephant all in one bite. So, a lot of people think, why did I still have this? Why am I going backwards? You're really just going deeper and more expanded version of that to find another layer of yourself at the end of the day. And so I've been doing that. And I want to also give credit to a very dear and near divine masculine friend of mine that is going through a lot of this healing that he's going through as well, that through my assistance with him, our interactions, and my own mirrored reflection, as well as another little thing I'm going to share with you, has taken me through all of this again from another layer, deepest layer, to where in the last week or two, I have, through that reflection, been able to dot I's, cross T's, put this all together and create a blueprint that will help people, as I teach, to move past these wounds, to experience these loving relationships. And of course, I become the bridge of all of those things. But anyway, I just really want to thank you. You know who you're going to be. But I want to thank you for helping bring light to my own shadows so that I can tap into that and clear and heal that, and then help the world in the process, because that's what I came here to do. So, so thank you. Also, I want to say thank you to a healer, that friend that's helped me for at least a couple years, and our work that we do parallels so much, and some of the work that she was doing at the same time I was doing this linked up. So every time her and I link in parallel, I know I'm in alignment with the collective, because her and I do a lot of collective work and healing. And so again, combine that with all of my people showing up, that's really, like, for me, the confirmation that this is some really needed information. And if it is, please make sure to comment below. Let me know, how this has helped you potentially. And again, stay tuned at the end, because I'm going to share with you several ways that you can get plugged in to get some deeper knowledge, deeper wisdom based on some stuff that I've created from this to share and help people heal. So let's jump in then and start with the first thing that you need to do. You need to go through a rebirthing process. And to do that, you need to identify why you chose your parents. And I've told you guys this before, that we choose our parents based on learning our major life lesson of this lifetime. And that life lesson is a common theme between all of our relationships as we go forward, as well as some of our maybe potential primary aspects of what we're learning. And I'll link that. That makes sense when I share something with you in a minute, and what mine is basically. So in those lessons, though, we typically choose our mother on how we go forward with our emotional status, and our father as to how we go forward in our taking action. And for me, going through this rebirthing process that I did 5 years ago, what I identified is the reason that I chose my parents was through the birthing process of the conception, the womb, and the delivery, and all of those components of that birthing process, that I had the perfect birth. My mother went about it all in a perfectionist way. Everything was mapped out. Everything was planned. So my whole life, I've been this planner, battling this perfectionism, and, tapping into it from a place of, it can be a strength and a weakness in that. And so I encourage you to be able to look within that and go deep and look at the process of your conception with your parents. Were you planned? Was you an accident? All those things are going to make a difference for you as to, your process of life, okay, and how you handle life, because your birth is how you handle your life, is what I'm actually saying here. And I've tracked this with clients because this particular part of this ReRight has been part of my reboot program for 3 to 4 years now. And I've tracked it with clients that long, and it's nailed. Like, everyone can identify and go through this process. And again, stay tuned, because I'm going to share with you how you can get something as a free resource that can help you do that and map that out for you at the end here. So then basically, you know, if we're choosing our parents as our major life lesson and we're identifying what that is that we chose to learn, then we need to then look at that lesson and plug it into the second thing that I'm about to share with you. But before I do, I want to share with you how that rebirthing process linked to what I've been going through and how over the last couple weeks, and how that triggered all of these dots and linking them all together. So basically, through this process of my childhood, I basically knew that this perfectionism of my mother created in me this battle my whole life of trying to be perfect, which underlying is not feeling good enough. And in that process, nothing I could basically do was really good enough. And down to, I was burned as a baby, which links to a past life of being burned at the stake. You probably read about that in Twin Flame Codebreaker if you've read my book. And then during the trial of Champ, getting Champ back, I was burned again on my wrist. And some of you may remember me talking about that. And so I was able to link the trial connected to the trial of the past life and creating justice. But in that period, through this process of my rebirth, in this ascension process, I knew that I wanted to get a tattoo that was a unilome. And the unilome, you know, it's the direction of everything being all crooked before, you know, basically goes straight. After I got the second burn, I knew that I wanted to connect the two burns with the tattoo, and I wanted the unilome, but I also knew that, like, out of that, we are lotus flowers, and the root system's always building, and it takes forever to see the flower to grow. But through my own personal process of coming full bloom and harmonizing and being that light and being, you know, harmony, like literally, because, you know, in that process, my name had changed to that, and my identity was changed in that to the new me and the new version of me. And I wanted this to represent my freedom. And so it'd been a planning process for at least 2 years to get this well, 3 years counting the unilome, but 2 years since almost 2 years since I had both burns on my wrist of the second one. I wanted to connect the two burns, and I wanted it to create those pieces for me together. Harmony, the lotus for coming full bloom, and the unilome for the pathway to enlightenment that's not a straight path. So as I've been going through this really deep purge over the last really couple months since August, going back to another past life of being hung at the stake and going through this de-armoring process you've heard me talk about from my personal, like, opening up to even more of me and coming into more freedom, then it took me, again, another layer deeper. And in that, I had connected through a de-armoring system of knowing my physical body needed help. I connected with a healer friend of mine that we had done some training together a few years ago when I'd done the rebirthing process. And her coming back into my life was like the perfect time for me to know I was on path. Well, I had a session with her not even quite a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago when this started. And in that session, 2 days prior, I picked out, even though I'd already picked out tattoos and they'd been getting closer, I wanted to do this. And since I connected with her, I was planning out this tattoo in my mind. And so a couple of days before my session with her, out of nowhere, I decided, like, I'm going to look it up and I want to start getting this real. And I switched my entire unilome and also my lotus flower, because it was much better than the ones I had originally been looking at. And I loved them. And that's when 2 days prior to this, Harmony dropped in to add harmony to that tattoo. And so then basically I went to get this healing session. And when I did, basically she had, I looked at her feet and saw that she had one tattoo that's a key on one side, but it wasn't balanced. And that's a representation of not being balanced going forward. And it was also the masculine. She's also harmonizing with her masculine in 3D. And so I'm like, you have to get another tattoo on the other side of your foot to balance them. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And I was telling her about, you know, what I wanted to do. And then we discussed sometime going to get the tattoos, because I liked her tattoos. I wanted to go where she went. So then in that process, basically, and the reason I don't know why this come through like this, but I guess Divine kind of feels off topic, but whatever. I want you to understand the process, I guess, of how deep it was that I was directed to get this tattoo at the time I did, because it became the trigger of everything that this came from here, because it took me on a quest. Because what happened was her actual clients, she had 3 clients after me, that while we were in session, all 3 of her clients was canceled or rescheduled while we were in session. And we looked at each other and we're like, let's go get tattoos, because I was ready. I had already 2 days prior done this, went. Well, what happened was I originally wanted to get the tattoo coming on my wrist with the lotus, going down with the unilome into my hand, coming out my finger, connecting the 2 burns. Well, then they told me they can't do the palms of the hand because it won't take. So then basically I had to move it up, and something kept feeling a little out of balance and I wasn't sure, but in my mind, I really needed to connect these 2 wounds, because I knew that what they represented from my childhood. I knew it was me birthing, coming out of the fire, like coming out of the fire basically, and being like risen again and blooming up and all of these things. So I went with it in that direction. I'll show it to you in a minute. So basically, then I went home. I had 2 really bizarre dreams about my family, which everyone's having dreams. And one had to do like with Champ and some other stuff that I was going through or needed to go through or learn or whatever. Anyway, as soon as both dreams were really deep and very impactful that made me wake up both times and startled. The second dream I woke up startled, I looked at my arm, and when I did, all I knew inside of me was like flipped out that I did the tattoo wrong, and I did it backwards, and it was not in harmony because I couldn't read it at the angle I was looking at it. It needed to be flipped. And this whole thing, I'm going to see if I can show you. All right, it says harmony down here. And then the flower and the unilome. So as you see, the angle you're seeing it is upside down from my angle to see it. All right. But in addition to that, had that not been in that direction, I never would have went instantly to my childhood perfectionism and everything about me being perfect triggered, and to the point I was sick on my stomach and all the stuff was coming out of me. And like basically it linked to so many things that it took me through to at the end, you know, I already knew that, you know, it was connecting your palms, your hands, or how you carry out your mission. And it's like I'm sending harmony to my mission out into the world. And I kind of saw these things, but it just took me this big circle and cycle. And in this cycle, I revisited everything about my perfectionism and all my wounds of being a child, dotted I's, crossed T's. And out of that, I created a program and an online, that's going to be like a program I help clients one-on-one with. And I mean, I literally I got it all downloaded because over the weekend, I heard the voice, I woke up 3 a.m. and I heard the voice of Wayne Dyer say to me that, don't go back to sleep. The morning breeze has secrets to tell you. And I knew it was going to be good. So I got up and I started tracking everything about my childhood and how it all linked to this and how it all came full circle and how it brought me to where I am and coming to this place of, oh my God, because I already loved the tattoo. I was just my perfection of the direction. And like, I was able to track out the direction and what it all meant. And on this level that I created an entire program based on that, what I went through, that also was being triggered by this other mirrored reflection of the divine masculine I mentioned and his wounds. and reflection of my own wounds for many levels that took me through a path of healing myself for things that I didn't even know still existed. This is so deep, so powerful. That's why I wanted to share with you, I think, a little bit about how it came about, because it's so powerful. So retracking then, once you can go through and identify with your parents what the major life lessons that you came here to learn, then in the second part of this is you need to identify your childhood wounds, as in what are those wounds? And you need to be able to go to identify that. You need to track out your progressive stages of your childhood. And you need to go through, so first we've done the rebirthing process. We know that in the rebirthing process, we've discovered out of that awareness what is our major lessons and blocks that are blocking us from connecting, to ourselves in the lesson, identifying that and getting it right with your parents, that then get it right with other relationships, which is the parts of this program that I'm about to share with you as we go into this here. But in your stages, you need to go through the ages 0 to 6 years old are basically your imprints. It's where you start to learn shame and guilt and doubt and all those things that get linked into you from this life and this programming, and how that conditioning with your interactions with your parents and what they taught you in that conditioning becoming subconscious programs that become memories within each stage, that when you get triggered going forward in other relationships and other areas of your life, those triggers are going back to the wounded child and hitting you in those places of your development. And you don't even know it because they're running subconsciously in those childhood patterns of how you acted out of your being abandoned, your rejection, and being wounded and feeling those wounds. Those wounds are still being triggered in all your relationships. So you need to identify what they are and where they started from this life, is what I'm telling you. 0 to 6 years is your imprints of what you learned in the conditioning of things, as I said, with the doubt, shame, guilt, and your worthiness and those sorts of things. Ages 7 through 12 is your modeling phases. That's where you're actually going out into the world and you're mimicking what you've been taught in your interactions with other people. And that's where in those modeling phases, you're comparing yourself to other people. You're looking at yourself as not being worthy, not being good enough, being inferior to other people. So you need to track, if you have these memories or these things going on now, you don't even always know it, okay? You might feel it, or let's just say in your life right now, you're feeling shame and guilt, okay? So then it's like that program you feel right now that's being triggered, it's gonna never be resolved until you go back to where it imprinted in you and reprogram that imprint with what you were trained and conditioned to, where that shame and guilt started. And so in that then, as we move forward, then from the ages 13 to 21 is our socialization skills. That's how we create our own identity now. That's how we are going forward with our identity. But the problem is our identity in those kind of ages are built upon what we've been told and what we've learned and what we've created from our conditioning of our patterns of action that we set up as a child. And now they're running again, as I said. So then once you basically, I just want to make sure that feels complete for the moment. There's a lot more parts to that I'm teaching in this coming online course and in a personal one-on-one course I'm doing with this that is, jump-starting right away. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but even just yesterday I mentioned this program to a client and she's already signed up for it. And I basically, as I said, I've already built out the program. It's just a matter of me packaging it up. And again, there'll be some ways you can get plugged into this if this resonates with you on all levels with me. Okay. So basically then, the third thing then we need to do in these 6 things is we need to reprogram that childhood conditioning. So we've identified our major life lesson. mine being, you know, this perfectionism and the expectation. And there was deeper layers that it took me through that had to do with my, like, linking those to my relationships that we'll talk about in a minute, and the common theme with the relationships that I have. So basically, as you go to reprogram this childhood conditioning, and you have, like, I guess, part 2 of that part of, like, those stages where I said you need to be able to identify what the wounds are. You need to make a list of the wounds. Part 2 then is taking that list of your wounds and being able to reprogram those childhood conditioning. I kind of already talked about this, where you're actually then making a list of those wounds and then tracking and connecting them into the stages that I was just mentioning. So you're identifying them, number 1. Number 2, you're reprogramming them based on going back to the stages and identifying what stage you first felt that shame and guilt as a child. And then what you can do is, every time you start to be triggered with a new trigger that's creating, again, shame or guilt, you can then identify where it came from, how it relates to your conditioning, and your actions. First, you can acknowledge that. You can heal your inner child from a place of, like, being heard, allowing yourself to be heard, allowing yourself to be nurtured, allowing yourself to become the divine parent of your inner child now, and taking charge of that, and all the things that, the ways that you have, like, what you're doing in that process of mapping those out of what those stages are and what they are. Then you can go through and literally, like, start looking the links of the patterns that you carry out now of how you, every time you get rejected, and your actions and your hurt and your pain, you can link that to that childhood stage, and you can basically create a new pattern of how you want to go forward with your actions in the future. And if you've already mapped out where they're coming from and how they link, doing so is going to connect the dots for you. That's going to shift you into repatterning that with all your relationships, which is basically the 4th thing here. So then once you have reprogrammed the inner child, the conditioning, and rewrite basically how you've handled being rejected every time, and to start to do that, instead of looking back at what's wrong, looking forward at how you can rewrite it in a new way of action, a new way of thinking about that. Then in the repatterning of that, you can make a list of all your relationships, which is number 4, of that, all the relationships of people that have showed up in your life to basically trigger all of these things from your parents, all your childhood conditioning, and they become partners that are mirroring your childhood wounds, is the key here. They are showing up to constantly trigger you, to, like, mirror your childhood wounds until you master the lessons that came through your reason to come in of your primary lesson of the rebirth, of your birthing process, of what you chose to learn from your parents. So when you then can reprogram that, you can make a list of all the partners that you've had, and in that of what your experiences were with them, what your hurts were, where were you rejected, where were you abandoned, where were you created doubt in the ability to connect with them, you know, all those parts. And as you make that and you review those experiences with each person, you can basically take note of what each person taught you in that process. And out of that, what you will do is you will come up with the common denominator, the common theme of your pattern of action with every relationship you've had, and down to your twin flame. And it will link to your parents and your relationship with them, which needs to be healed and finished and completed as in this reprogramming these patterns. It doesn't have to necessarily be done from in person or in your reality, but if you can get, you know, to that place of being able to do it from a process of being gratitude for the lessons and thanking them, you know, and seeing the innocence and that you signed up to learn that experience, you can actually then begin to shift your perception and your reality of how that you continue to also operate in these programs. Like, it's going to help you let go of the resentment, the pain, the wound, the blame, the lack of accountability and responsibility that you signed up as a contract with your parents to learn these things, as well as everyone else that's shown up to continue to trigger you in that. So you can then move beyond it. And that's a big piece of your reprogram right there. See, that's one way to reprogram it. The next way is every time now somebody starts to show up, as in number 5, creating harmonic loving relationships. What you do now is you may still trigger or like have people continue to show up that are filling those roles that are coming in, but they're coming in to test you. They're coming in for you to implement your new way to handle it. Creating a new conditioning of how you do handle it, and how you basically then can, as you shift forward with these new patterns, you're going to tip the scale. So you're creating these harmonic relationships, and that's what we're doing here as twin flames. You're able to spend time practicing implementing these new ways you handle it, and over time the way you handle it will become better and better and better, and easier and easier and easier, because you're recreating a new program instead of operating from the wounded child program. And number 6 in this then is you can attract your power partner from this place. So if you've been, that could be a twin flame, that could be, a soulmate, that could be your highest divine partner of this lifetime. It depends on where you're at, your vibration, what your desire is, what you want, and to realize that there is some free will in that, and that there is, do you want to limit yourself to your abilities or your gifts or the pieces that you have in your vibration that need to align with somebody that's moving in the same direction or the same alignment or the same vibration, so that when you invest that energy into that you're harmonically moving. Now, that doesn't mean you're not harmonically moving at any vibration. It just means you're going to hit opposite polarities with those people in order to hit your shadows. Now, those shadows can bring neutrality, and it can still bring you back in through more layers, because that contract with that person may not be over yet. It doesn't mean that's a one-time shot and it's over. And you will continue with each of those partners until you have each come to some neutrality within yourselves that will then co-create a relationship in the role reversals I talked about last week, or you'll go in separation, or you'll harmonize in a new way, a different way, a better way. Just depends on how that dynamic is set up. But in that, attracting that power partner, the thing at this point is you know what you don't want, because of everything that you've went through to trace out from your rewrite of your lessons, and how that lesson became how your interactions were with your parents, and potentially still are, that you need to rewrite and reprogram. And then, you're going to identify what wounds are being triggered from all your relationships. You can then reprogram the conditioning with new patterns of action. Then you will have plugged that into all your relationships up to this point. And you will see these things come to surface of the nuggets that will hit home to be like, this is what happened to me, is what I'm telling you. I did all of what we're just talking about here, and I was just blown away at the knowledge that came through. In the course that I'm creating online, I'm going to share, or actually I should say course period, I'm going to be sharing each section of this is going to be like a segment and a course, like a breakdown of the course itself. It's 6 modules. And so in each one, my awareness, my going through this and sharing it as a mirrored reflection and a template will be paralleling what you're to do, so you can see live what it is you're to do in the process. And so, again, stay tuned. I'm going to share with you what that means in a minute. I'm almost done. But I think the key in this attracting your power partner is going to be that if you know what you don't want, that's pretty clear at this point, and you're linking the dot of how you need to correct it for what you want in your life partner and what you don't want, then you need to get really clear on what you want. And you need to start setting the vibration of what that is and being really clear on how you want to carry your relationships out going forward. And that's what I came to. And it really set me up to realize exactly how I want to go forward in future relationships that become intimate type relationships of whatever meaning that is, that and doing so, that as I make those connections, they're going to be new patterns of action coming in that way, not my old patterns and old programming, because I know what the programming that's kept me in the maze, that's kept me in the loop now, that is why I've not fully been able to break out of this twin flame maze to move forward in my own harmonious relationship. And I've been tracking this maze. You've probably heard me talk about it for several months now in different videos of how we break free, of why we keep being rerouted to our twin flame or to our parents, or the same loops and same cycles that are endless that send us back. And they're sending us back because we didn't get the major lesson of this lifetime yet. I brought this up. I'll make sure that escaping the twin flame maze, something like that, I'll make sure there's a link to that video that connects this for you, so you can kind of refer to that video and much more information about what I was saying, because I kind of brought up the rewrite then as far as rewriting your birthing process then, but everything I just shared with you expanded on that. So, all right, so you need to, I'm just going to recap this, you need to rewrite your birthing process, you need to identify your childhood wounds, you need to reprogram your childhood conditioning, and then you need to reprogram like your relationships, of all your relationships. You need to then create basically new templates that create more harmonic, loving relationships with new conditions, new patterns. And then in the sixth one, you need to get really clear on what you want to attract for the power partner, so that you've now like brought that in from who you would like to go forward with in the future and open that space for that. So thank you for being here. And how you can get plugged into this is several ways. Number one, there's going to be a link below that you can get the Rewrite Your Birthing script, the process of going through that with my live example. It's going to be a free download. If you are already on my email list, don't worry about signing up for it, because I'm going to email it out to you with this information, okay? If you're new, make sure you get plugged into that. If you, second to that, I have a membership program that I have created, and in the membership program, if you've already, those of you who are already signed up, this online course of the Reprogram Your Childhood Wounds will be in that membership. It's coming. Which, by the way, I just want to say something else. I would appreciate some prayers. My father is in the hospital as of yesterday. I have to go out of town this weekend unexpectedly. And I've learned so much with him in the last 6 to 8 months. You guys probably heard me talk, and this is another layer of 3D rewriting, you know, my history and past with him. But I'm going to support my mom emotionally, and then my dad, you know, has some things going on, as a lot of you may have heard. And I'm going to that. So any thoughts, prayers, I'd appreciate it, just for our family right now. But the reason I brought that up too is that it's going, like, I'm not going to have everything ready for you to get straight signed up for this online course for this yet. But if you sign up for my membership in the link below, it will actually, like, you will find in that coming, as of next week, will be module 1 coming. And I will be building it out somewhere over 4 to 6 weeks of 4 to 6 modules, something around that, depending upon how it comes out, that you can start getting linked in to that program to do my online course. One of two ways on the online. You can do it as the membership program of the monthly subscription, or you can purchase the program by itself once I have that in there. And that link will be shared also below whenever I have that page ready to sign up directly with it. Okay. The fourth way you can really do that is, I'll put a link below. I'm doing this as a one-on-one course now, a 6-program course to help people go through everything I just shared with you. And so you can get plugged in and work with me one-on-one. if that resonates as well. So I send you guys so much love, light, and healing. That inner child. I'm telling you, this is the biggest breakthrough I've seen come in a long time. I thank everyone, all of you guys for showing up, for participating. I'll thank you for your feedback, please. And make sure to like, comment, share the shine. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.